I got to take this moment. I want to brag. I want to pat myself on the back. Because if you listen to the show, hopefully if you listen often, but even drop in here and there, you listen to the show and you hear and you realize I am wrong a lot of the time. A lot of the things I predicted so far do not come right. One of the few things that I have been bullish on, I've been confident in, and I'm proven right on just this past weekend. Don't ever, 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 no matter what, even in a fire, if you're a Step Brothers fan, believe in Texas. Say that Texas is back until they win a national title, until they win the Big 12, until they win a big game. Because what happens? Each year, it is like clockwork. They have one of the best PR staffs, one of the biggest hype machines in all of college football. We do it every single year. Is this the year Texas is back? Oh, well, they got a new head coach, Tom Herman. Tom Herman finally has his players in there. Year number 4 now. This is the year for Texas. He got his players in there. This is the year for him. He fired both coordinators, new guys in there, new blood. Sam Ehlinger, 4th-year quarterback. This is Texas's year. And what happens, folks? People buy in. We hear Texas, Texas, Texas. They crack the top 10 in the AP poll. Texas does what they always do every single year. Struggle against lesser opponents and lose. Never, please, I'm begging you. Hopefully this is the lesson. If you're on the fence or didn't want to listen before, this is the latest example that finally puts you over the edge. Get you to my side of the fence. Welcome. We have a lot of fun here. And you believe that Texas will never be back until, truly they are. Never say the words Texas is back. Never believe the hype leading to a big game because they always fall flat on their face. And they always pull upsets like this. Lose at home 33-31 at TCU. Struggle against a lesser opponent, lose. And now since Tom Herman, so he's been the head coach since 2017, so 4 years. This is now the 6th time under the Tom Herman era that Texas has been ranked in the AP and lost to an unranked team. Most by any FBS program in that time. More than any Division I program this time. Texas, man, never back. I told you a month ago, September 11th to be exact. We were talking about college football playoff contenders. It's giving you my thoughts. And even just having the words Texas and college football playoff in the same sentence drove me insane. Never believe in Texas. They will never be back. And again, yet again, another year where the hype was real, the belief was there. You can maybe talk yourself into it. Is Oklahoma really going to have 4 straight Heisman Trophy finalists? Is Lincoln Riley really going to churn out another quarterback? We see Oklahoma struggling. It's there for Texas for the taking, and they can't do it. They cannot be trusted. They can never be trusted until it's actually done. Until they win a national title. Until they even win the Big 12. How about that? Can we win the Big 12 first? Don't believe in Texas. I tried to warn you guys. I hope you listened. But if not, I hope this is a lesson you learned. Don't do it. Don't ever, ever, ever do it. Speaking of the Big 12, man, banner day for the Big 12. It's nice of the Big 12 this past weekend to assume the role of the Pac-12. Pac-12 is not playing for another month. So in their absence, with no Pac-12 after dark, with no zaniness, no crazy upsets, no chaos, the Big 12 has taken that role, taken that lead, and they are playing the role to perfection. Not only do we have number 9 Texas lose at home to TCU. TCU has dominated Texas, by the way, since coming to the Big 12. Shout out to you, Gary Patterson. But you had number 18 Oklahoma do something they've never done in a long time, in 2 decades. Lose back-to-back games. Number 18 Oklahoma falls yet again, this time on the road to Iowa State. If you stayed up late to watch that game, it was worth it. And now, in a league of 10 teams, again, where the hype for Texas is real, people were trying to make a real case for them to be the playoff contender, even make the playoff. Oklahoma, as we know, every single year, always in that conversation, always 10-1, always 11-1. The only undefeated team right now is Oklahoma State, who still is out their starting quarterback, Spencer Sanders, because of an ankle injury. So the Big 12 went into the role of the Pac-12. And what does the Pac-12 do? Not only do they beat each other, they're always out of the college football playoff discussion early. See you later, Big 12. See you later. And more than ever, I feel confident in saying this. Because unlike previous years, where you had crossover games, we had some sort of metric or ability to compare conference by conference by conference. That ability is gone this year. Right? When teams are playing only conference or conference-only games, I should say. I know the Big 12 was playing one non-conference game, but it's against Missouri State. That's who Oklahoma played. Teams like that. Smaller, lesser teams you really can't get any substantial analysis on. Their strength of schedule is shot. Again, Oklahoma out of the rankings. Texas is going to plummet. So if you're Oklahoma State, the only real team left with college football playoff aspirations or hopes or goals or chances, now you can't get a quality win because everyone else is losing. And why that's so important this year more than ever. Because like I said, without the ability to compare conference by conference, because there's no non-conference games, no crossover games, this year more than ever, the committee members are going to have to go based upon perception. Well, we know in the past the SEC is always strong. So the top, the teams at the top, we're going to probably weigh favorably, because their competition is better than, let's say, teams in the Big 12. Because the Big 12 has teams like Kansas losing to Coastal Carolina. Oklahoma State squeaked one out against Tulsa. Iowa State just upset Oklahoma, lost at home to Louisiana. The Big 12's perception is in the toilet. Absolutely in the toilet. And as we know, perception is reality. This year more than ever, that perception truly will be reality. So when it comes to trying to assess any team in the Big 12, they're just going to be that conference stinks. Oklahoma, 9-1. Good year. 10, maybe we'll go 10-1 if they win the conference. But who did they play? Who did they beat? The greatest question in college football. Who did you beat? Who did you lose to? There will be no good loss for Oklahoma State, because every team right now stinks in the Big 12. And there really won't be any good wins. We had a Heat win last night. 115-104. And now for all the presumed sweep talks, for all the Heat are going to, the Lakers are going to roll, LeBron James getting another championship. Why are we even going to watch? I'm curious your thoughts if you're looking at this series any differently. Because I am. I told you I should be a believer in Heat last week when they lost Game 1. Blowing out, really, in Game 1. They fought back in Game 2, despite no Goran Dragic again, despite no Bam Adebayo. Lost, but played a lot tougher. And last time they got over the hump, led by Jimmy Butler, 40-point triple-double, unstoppable, just flat-out unstoppable. Shot 70% from the field, and willed his team to victory. So now, series is 2-1. Game 4 on Tuesday night. Are you looking at the Heat any differently? Are you looking at this series any differently? Because I am. Because if you listen to the show, I've been betting against the Lakers for a while. When they lost to Portland in Game 1 of the opening round of the playoffs, when it was still the big three of the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Bucks, I put the Lakers on the bottom of that three to make the finals. The team I had the least amount of confidence in. And the reasoning I had back then is the same reason I have now about my concern and why I think, not even concern, but why I'm a believer in the Heat. And I think this series will be a very tough, grinded out, no rollover series. Because the Lakers showed they're very top heavy. They need LeBron and AD not even to play well, to be dominant, to be elite, or they're in trouble. Now I'll say this, I'll give them credit. Because I said, I talked about it with Portland in Game 1. I'm talking about it now. In between Game 1 of the opening round of the playoffs and Game 3 of the finals, to be fair, I've not talked about it that much. And that is the core group, or I should say the bench group, coming up short for the Lakers. AD has been phenomenal these playoffs, really outside of one or two game stretch. LeBron has been LeBron. At 35, that's Just saying LeBron is still mind-blowing and incredible to say at his age, with all the miles in his legs, that he's still playing at the level he is. But this is the issue with the Lakers. This is why, personally, I was a believer, and I was picking the Clippers if they were to match up to beat the Lakers. It's because their depth. They're scoring their play outside of those two guys. Now, granted, 2 top 5, 2 top 7 players in the league, that helps. But they don't have a third option to bail them out. They really don't have a consistent scorer to bail them out. And when it's all or nothing, when it's LeBron James, AD, or bust, if they are not elite, if they're not dominant, if they're not game-changing, the Lakers will lose. It came back to bite them on a night like last night. Because the Heat are one of those teams that get contributions from up and down the lineup that can hurt you in so many different ways. That's why it's a tough series. That's why they're battling back, and I'm a believer. I'm a believer in the Heat. Last night, Anthony Davis, foul trouble, scored 15 points. He got his 4th foul early on. If I'm trying to remember correctly, I think it was early on in the third quarter. Either late in the second or early in the third, I apologize. But it was still a lot of time left, and he kept playing his foul trouble all night. LeBron James, 25 points, but 8 turnovers. Between LeBron and AD, 13 turnovers between the two. Coughing the ball up left and right, not playing well at all. And lent itself to the Heat, owning a lot of this game. You look at the bench, you look at the contributors outside of LeBron, outside of AD. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 5 points. Danny Green, 0 of 6 from the field. Rajon Rondo, playoff Rondo, 4 points. Now Kyle Kuzma, Markieff Morris played well. 17 points each. They made some big shots when needed to. But there's no one on this Lakers bench. There's no one outside of LeBron and AD that if they're not having an otherworldly game, flat out dominating, they could pick up the slack. And look at the Heat. They were down 2 of their best players in Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo. Despite that, yeah, Jimmy Butler played amazing, absolutely, right? Again, 40-point triple-double, was extremely efficient, put the team on his back. We had Duncan Robinson making shots. He contributed. Tyler Hero made some big buckets late. He made some big buckets late. As a rookie, on that stage, in that situation, to step up the way he did was phenomenal. He stepped up. Kelly Olynyk, stepping in for Bam, had a solid game 2, had another solid game 3, knocking down shots. The Heat have the depth needed to compete. And more importantly, those guys step up when they're called. This is not an aberration. This is not a one-night little swing here from the Heat. Now, sure, is AD going to play as bad as he did last night every night? Absolutely not. Was LeBron going to hand the ball out like he was giving out candy on Halloween? Absolutely not. The Lakers are going to bounce back big time in Game 4. They're going to play tough. But you know who I also believe will rise up to that challenge? Will equal that energy? Will equal that level of play? The Heat. You can hear a lot of players talk about what they need to do. You can hear a lot of players kind of outline, we just got to play harder. Give you some coaching, we just got to make shots, but don't do it. Jimmy Butler, after Game 2 on Friday night, talked about how the Heat need to play harder. There's no excuses. There's no, oh, well, we're injured. We're missing a great shot creator in Goran Dragic. We're missing our guy down low to give Anthony Davis hopefully some fits. Lessen the rebound dominance that the Lakers had in Game 2. Anthony Davis just controlled the boards in Game 2. Bam's lack of presence on the court really hurt them in the rebounding category. So you could easily make excuses. There's 2 free built-in excuses for the Heat. For Eric Spoelstra to complain about, for Jimmy Butler to complain about. Instead, after the game, Jimmy Butler said, we got to play harder. We got to just find a way. It's on us to figure it out. Eric Spoelstra kept saying the same thing. We got to figure out a way to beat this team. And it wasn't just hope that Bam Adebayo can magically get healthy again and play really well. Goran Dragic can play on his foot and give you some hero performance. They went back to the drawing board. They looked at the film. They devised a plan to give AD fits down low to help slow his role in the paint. They forced the Lakers in Game 2 to shoot 47 threes. That's part of the reason why they're able to be in that game so late. The Lakers have no business shooting 47 threes. With LeBron James' dominance down low, with Anthony Davis' dominance down low and on the boards, they could have attempted 0 3-pointers and won pretty easily without Bam, without really a down low presence for the Heat in Game 2.